So good morning. Lieutenant Governor Polito and I are very proud to be here today with the Honorable Justice Kim Budd. The Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, the longest functioning appellate court in the United States, sitting continuously since 1692, has served as an example for our nation since its founding. The court decides hugely important issues that affect just about every aspect of life here in the Commonwealth. But it has a very simple mission: to promote the rule of law and foster public trust by leading an independent judiciary that assures every person equal access to the fair, timely, and impartial resolution of disputes in courts managed with efficiency and professionalism. Today, we're proud to nominate Justice Budd as the 38th Chief Justice of the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, and we do so with great pleasure. We're also mindful that this occasion is bittersweet in light of Chief Justice Ralph Gants' untimely passing. He left big shoes to fill, but I can think of no one more qualified and better prepared to carry the court's mission forward than Kim Budd. The role of Chief Justice requires collaboration and a willingness to not only champion the court, but also its staff and its justices. It requires a voice to advocate for the judiciary among the other branches of government and to foster public confidence and trust in its work. Justice Budd has done all of those things and more. As the regional justice for the criminal session in Middlesex Superior Court, she was highly thought of and constantly in demand by her peers. They respected her not only for her sharp legal mind, but for her willingness to listen, and I'm going to come back to that point in a minute. She managed the docket and her sessions in a calm and controlled manner, showing respect to everyone in the courthouse and their time. Her dedication to the work of important committees, such as the Standing Committee on Judicial Performance, the Trial Court Race and Bias Advisory Committee, and the Standing Committee on Pro Bono Services, are examples of her efforts to improve the quality of justice for the people of Massachusetts. Her resume speaks for itself, but above all, it's her selflessness, character, and integrity that stuck out to me from the first time I met her. Since taking office, I've been honored to appoint 5 justices to the court here in the Commonwealth, and working with her fellow justices, Justice Budd has played an instrumental role. She's always eager to collaborate and values collegiality, which is crucial to the functioning of any successful court. Her colleagues, litigants, and staff praise her as a dedicated listener, someone who treats everyone with dignity, and she brings intelligence and diligence to her research and her writing. Rarely will you ever hear Justice Budd use the word I or me. And several of her colleagues said some version of the same thing when I reached out to them to talk about her during this process. They said, spending time with Justice Budd makes me want to be a better person. She believes in empowering people and building confidence in them. More importantly, during a time that has been immensely difficult, a pandemic that has revealed the painful reminders of our country's continued racial disparities and the tragic passing of Chief Justice Gants, Justice Budd has embodied calm, steady, and collaborative leadership. I have the utmost faith, should she be confirmed by the Governor's Council, that a Chief Justice Budd will bring that leadership to the courts as they face significant, unprecedented challenges with dignity and integrity. Serving on the court as an Associate Justice is a huge and awesome responsibility, and it's one that Justice Budd has met with poise and humility. We have every confidence that those same skills will aid her as she transitions into the role of chief, and under her leadership, that the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court will continue its tradition of excellence in promoting the rule of law and fostering public trust. Both personally and professionally, Justice Budd has served as a role model for women and for people of color, and has given a voice to those who are not always heard. More than ever, we need her leadership and the unique lens with which she views experience and makes decisions. The perspective that she'll bring to the Massachusetts community, as well as her steadfast commitment to fairness and equality, will serve the citizens of the Commonwealth well. One of the things that makes a leader special is their ability to bring those around them together because they are, in fact, hearing what they're saying. Great listeners, and Kim Budd is a great listener, give people a sense that their views, their ideas, that they matter. More than anything, at this particular time, this court needs to be led by someone who listens. And we look forward to the Governor's Council's consideration of Justice Budd, and we hope that the Council will find her as well qualified as we do to be Chief of the Supreme Judicial Court. And now I'd like to welcome Lieutenant Governor Polito to the podium.
Good morning, and thank you, Governor. It is an honor to introduce Justice Kimberly Budd as the nominee for Chief Justice of the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court. Since her appointment to the Commonwealth's highest court almost 4 years ago, Justice Budd has embodied the court's mission. She has demonstrated a keen understanding of the importance of both the jurisprudence of the court as well as the superintendence of the court system. When we nominated her to the court, it was clear that she had dedicated herself to ensuring and fostering the common good, and she hasn't slowed down in carrying out that mission. Justice Budd has authored over 85 decisions since joining the SJC in 2016. She sits on numerous trial court committees, including the Standing Committee on Judicial Performance, the Trial Court Race and Bias Advisory Committee, the Standing Committee on Pro Bono Services, and the Judicial Youth Corps. In addition, she is the President and Dean of the Flashner Judicial Institute, which seeks to improve the administration of justice in the Commonwealth by providing educational programs and seminars for our state judges. Justice Budd has given of herself, both in the courtroom and outside of it, to work to improve our Commonwealth and the quality of our judicial system. I have no doubt she will continue to improve access to the rule of law for all of our residents. Justice Budd's legal background is extremely well-rounded, having served several years both in the public sector with the U.S. Attorney's Office and the private sector as university attorney for Harvard University. Prior to joining the bench in 2009, she was the director of the Community Values Program at Harvard Business School, and then on the bench, she served as the Regional Administrative Justice for the Middlesex Superior Court. These important roles informed her management experience, and as Chief, I am confident she will find these experiences to be invaluable as she leads the court and oversees the entire third branch of government. It is my pleasure and my honor to introduce Justice Kimberly Budd.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. I'd like to thank the Governor and the Lieutenant Governor for putting their faith in me by nominating me for this position. I'm mindful that, that this nomination is occasioned by the untimely passing of Chief Justice Ralph Gants, who served the judiciary and the Commonwealth so well for so many years, and who was a mentor and friend to me. So while I'm incredibly honored to be considered to fill the vacancy that's been created, this opportunity is unquestionably bittersweet. I thank the members of the Governor's Council for getting to know me a few years back, and I look forward to the process ahead. If confirmed, I promise that I will give my very best effort as the chief of the oldest continuously running appellate court in the Western Hemisphere. Thank you.
Questions for any of us?
What was your thinking about how to fill this? Did you have Justice Budd in mind early on? When this slot came up, obviously you didn't expect a Chief Justice vacancy, but what were the mechanics of your thinking?
Well, I think for both the Lieutenant Governor and me, the process was one of wanting to make sure that, as I said in my remarks, that whoever ended up as chief was going to be somebody who would bring an appreciation for the roles and responsibilities of the SJC along with them, and would be somebody who would in fact bring the collegiality and that sense of purpose and that ability to listen that really has been a hallmark of every conversation either one of us has had with anybody who's dealt with Justice Budd over the years. We still have 2 more appointments to make to this court. There are going to be a lot of people on it who don't know each other very well. There'll be many that do. And I think it's going to be critically important for this court to be led by somebody who, as I said in my remarks, has 2 trademarks that everybody commented on. The first was, I've never met a better person. And several people did go so far as to say, she makes me want to be a better person. And the second thing was this notion about collegiality, active listening, being heard. In the world we live in these days, leaders need to be able to inspire confidence in people and a sense that their voice matters. And virtually everybody that we talked to about Justice Budd started with those 2 personal qualities before they then got into discussions about decisions and all the rest. I mean, there's a lot of terrific people on that bench who I think everybody would agree, based on the feedback we've gotten, are all considered to be, giants with respect to their legal acumen. But at this point in time, a calm, steady hand from someone who everybody admires as a person and who brings that ability to give people a sense that their views and their perspectives and their voice matters is exactly what this court needs in its next Chief Justice.
Governor, when you originally picked the Associate Justice, did you determine at that point that she could be a good Chief Justice? Or was there something that happened over the years that brought her to that level?
I guess what I would say about the original process is the Lieutenant Governor and I just both thought she would be terrific on the SJC. And as the Lieutenant Governor said, she's written 85 opinions. A few dissents along the way too, as I recall. But has really been in many respects somebody who, I know how her peers feel about her. They think the world of her. And I think the reputation she developed over the course of that period of time is the one I just spoke to. And that had a lot to do with why we felt she would be the best person at this time. Now, obviously, the Governor's Council needs to vet her, and I'm sure they will, but they gave her an 8-0 last time, so.
Governor, her confirmation hearing 4 years ago, Justice Budd told the council that she did not see a reason legally why undocumented immigrants should have driver's licenses. Now, that's a position that's in conflict with your own political and policy position on that. Do you consider things like that when you look to make appointments like this, or you interview the Justice Budd, you talk to her about these things?
So, I constantly get asked by folks in the media about why I'm endorsing candidates for certain offices that I don't always agree with on everything. And it's usually the first question I get asked. Governor, how come you're endorsing so-and-so? You don't agree with such and such on whatever. You know, my wife and kids don't agree with me on everything. I don't agree with my mom. She's a Democrat. I was a Republican. I loved her to death, thought she was one of the most amazing people I ever met. I don't think you should make decisions about things like this based on single issues, ever. And as I said, the two things that really stood out here were how many really bright, really smart, really important people in the judiciary spoke to her character and her manner and the way she works with, relates to, engages other people. When they talked about why they thought she would be terrific in this role. We've never been a single issue administration on anything, and we're certainly not going to start now.
Justice Budd?
Yeah.
May I ask you, Chief Justice Gants, beyond the opinions he wrote, often chose different issues that he championed. Racial justice, he was opponent to mandatory minimum sentences. There are issues that he brought up as Chief Justice beyond just what he wrote about. Are there certain issues that at least you would like to push, if confirmed as Chief Justice, you feel are important as sort of that administrator in that role of just being the leader of the court?
You know, I just found out about this yesterday, so I haven't had a chance to really think about what I might do as Chief Justice. The thing that I know is necessary and required at this time is we're in the middle of a pandemic. People in the Commonwealth are in a panic. People are hurting, and we have to make sure that the judiciary is running as well as it can, and that's what I'm focused on right now.
What are some qualities of Chief Justice Gants that we'll see coming from you in the years to come?
He was a great chief. He knew how to bring people together. He didn't take himself too seriously, although the issues that we had to deal with as a court were very serious. He valued everyone on the court's opinion. He treated us as a team of equals. And I hope that that's what he modeled for us, and that's certainly very important to me, and I'll look to do the same thing.
Justice Budd?
Yes.
A lot of the headlines tomorrow are going to be talking about how your nomination is history-making as the first Black woman to be nominated to be the chief of this historic court. In accepting this nomination, do you feel that added weight and pressure of the role that you could be stepping into?
So the idea that I would be the first Black female Chief Justice of the Supreme Judicial Court is a little overwhelming, and it's very meaningful to me. But the idea of actually just being the chief of the Supreme Judicial Court is more overwhelming to me. So I'm going to have to just work on pulling it all together, I think.
Justice Budd, during your speech when you were sworn in as Associate Justice, you spoke to the importance of the different perspectives and different viewpoints of why having those on the bench are important. Now can you speak to that, of that different perspective just as Chief Justice, and you have perhaps the loudest megaphone in the state judiciary?
I really have valued being on the SJC, being an Associate Justice, and just having a seat at the table and being able to raise issues or perspectives that might not otherwise be considered. And I will continue to do that. And there'll be 6 other Associate Justices there, and we'll have a chance to talk about all of it. I like that I have the opportunity to bring things to the group for their consideration.
Justice Budd, could you speak to your time working at Harvard? A couple of people I've spoken to tell me they believe some of your ability to work with people and actively listen comes from some time when you've actually stepped away from maybe some of the heart of the legal work. And I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Well, having the opportunity to work at Harvard Business School was above all wonderful because I had a chance to spend time with my children. I worked part-time during my time there.
You should tell that story.
What was neat about being at Harvard Business School was it's a school of management. So I learned things that I didn't learn just being in that environment that I didn't learn in law school and I didn't learn in law firms. So I learned that meetings are important, performance evaluations are important, things like that. I don't know that Harvard Business School gave me the tools to listen. I think that's something I've done throughout my life, but I certainly value the time that I spent there.
The governor has 2 more appointments to your colleagues. If you let him know what you'd like in your colleagues, if you talk
Yeah,
about that.
that's not my role. That's not my position. No. But I look forward to welcoming whoever it is who is nominated and affirmed by the Governor's Council. It'll be just as when 3 of us came in 2016, I know that Chief Justice Gants worked really hard to make sure that we were oriented, we knew how the court worked and what was expected of us, and we were able to quickly make our way up a steep learning curve. And so those are things that I'm going to have to think about as well.
Justice, there are a number of lawsuits about the governor's use of religious orders during the pandemic. They work their way through the courts. Is that something you anticipate having to deal with? I just mean very, very broadly, what kind of cases are landing on the docket because of the pandemic?
Yeah, I think that's under review right now. So
How has the pandemic changed the way you operate?
we've had a lot of emergency issues come up about people hoping to be released prior to trial if they're in jail waiting for trial. People who are hoping to have an opportunity to get out sooner. The pandemic has just raised a lot of issues that would not otherwise be in front of us right now. So it's extra. It's on top of what we would normally do.
Last question.
Governor, what's your timeline for filling the other 2 seats?
I mean, there's our role in this, and then there's the role of the Governor's Council. I think, our goal is going to be to try to put terrific candidates in front of the Governor's Council soon, and hopefully, there's a couple of Wednesday holidays in here between, Christmas or Thanksgiving has one, the Veterans Day is a Wednesday. There's a bunch of things that are going to land on the calendar here, but our hope would be that if we get a couple of really good people in front of the Governor's Council shortly, that they'll be able to find a way to make the schedule work between now and the end of the year. I know that folks that are currently on the court would like to see us nominate folks and try and get it done by the end of the calendar year. That's our goal.
Governor, quick COVID questions. If you could address some of the travel restrictions that have been imposed in some nearby states? And also, and you talked a little bit about this yesterday involving youth hockey, with this rising surge in cases, can you explain to people what's different now than was in March? In March, you shut everything down, but now we're open and the cases are rising. Can you talk a little bit about what's different?
Well, the biggest thing that's different is we know a lot more about where cases are coming from, and we have way more testing capacity, tracing capacity, and knowledge and understanding about the virus than we had then. We also have rules for basically every employer that's open, which we didn't have, about how to operate safely back in March. And we also have far better intelligence about what's going on with COVID in Massachusetts than we had back then. I mean, I think in March we were doing 2,000 or 3,000 tests a day. We're now doing somewhere between 80 and 100,000 tests a day. That gives us, and we have 250 test sites in Massachusetts at this point, including 18 free testing sites, mostly located in areas where we think we have high risk. So we're playing a really different game at this point than we were playing then. And I think in many ways it's important for us to continue to message, especially to young people, the importance of taking this seriously, wearing face coverings, and recognizing and understanding that that's not just about you might get it, it's also about you might give it. And there was a report that came out earlier today that said, I think 20 or 30% of people under the age of 30, based on a survey that was done this summer in the U.S., just don't wear masks. It's a lot of people, and I can't stress enough how important that sort of thing is as we go forward. But the biggest difference is better data, better information, much more testing and tracing capacity, and a healthcare system that is far more knowledgeable about dealing with this than they were then. We all know a lot more about COVID, and I think we benefit from that. On the travel stuff, I'd just say that states are doing what they believe is the best thing they can and should do to keep their states safe. And we have travel advisories, other people have travel advisories, and my one message would be I think people should do what they can to abide by those. Now, most of those travel advisories, especially that involve contiguous states, don't involve work, don't involve family, don't involve what I would describe as sort of the constant back and forth that goes on. Those are all exemptions across state lines. But I think from our point of view, these are an important part of how states manage travel into their states, including, and we do as well.
Did you get a heads up from Governor Lamont or what Governor Cuomo was going to do as far as
Yeah, we talked to them yesterday, yeah.
What they say, what was the kind of reasoning? I know it's
Well, we said we thought it was a bad idea, and they said thank you very much for your opinion.
Thanks, everybody.
Justice Budd, I was going to ask you have the court has before a case sort of deciding on the governor's own emergency powers amid the coronavirus. As you get this awesome opportunity, is there a feeling of having to balance both getting that, but also considering what is a extremely important case for both this administration and the state as well?
Every case that comes before us is very important. And that case, along with all of the other cases, are working their way through the process, and that's going on, and this is going on. So, thank you.
Justice Budd, are you registered Republican or Democrat?
I'm unenrolled.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the one thing I would say, we did not talk to Justice Budd about any case, neither one of us did, that's currently in front of the SJC. Never would. Wouldn't matter. She would tell us, she wouldn't give us a point of view or an opinion anyway, but I just want you to know that we did not ask her about any case that was in front of the SJC.